2016 두산 베어스가
기아타이거즈 통산 11번째 SK가 이곳 잠실에서 이렇게 승리를 끝냅니다.
All right, everybody, welcome on into KBO Chats Live, a special Halloween playoff spectacular, spooktacular is what we're calling it here. That was a very special playoff hype video from the official KBO YouTube channel. If that doesn't get you hyped, I don't know what will. I think it was very cool. Might not have been able to read the quotes there, but very cool. A lot of great baseball. Eric, I feel like I just talked to you about some KBO action, but there's a lot to go over now with playoff time is starting. We had a crazy last day of action, last real day of action with all 5 teams going. Dinos and Lions tied, but that wasn't even the most interesting thing because we had seeding craziness. Diving right in here, the Heroes and Bears, KT Wiz, and the Hanwha Eagles. Explain to me what happened here in terms of the seeding scenarios. What happened in that last day?
Yeah, we definitely got some things wrong last time out, specifically with the Wiz and Twins facing the 2 worst teams in the league, just needing a win to get the best possible seed, and it didn't seem very hard, and they both lost. The Wiz almost choked their way down to the 4th spot. There was only one scenario in which a Wiz loss would see them wind up still finishing 2nd and getting those multiple buys. And that scenario involved both the Twins and the Heroes losing, and that is exactly what happened. 3 close games there, really wild way to end the regular season. Really hard to say that any of those teams is noticeably better than the rest, and the fact that the one that finished top of that group of 4 kind of backed their way into the 2nd seed backs that up pretty well, I think. So an exciting final day that should preview an exciting couple weeks here of playoff action for sure.
Yes, a lot of insanity there. Did a little meme about that with the Wiz and LG for what should be a must-win and against the 2 easiest opponents, and they come up short. But the Wiz, at least, they have a happy ending as they are the 2 seed, and the Twins are the 4 seed in the postseason bracket here. Eric, for people tuning in now for the KBO postseason action, how does this bracket work? It does not look like a normal postseason bracket that we are used to here in America. What's going on here?
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of what they do here. It reminds me in some ways of what the NFL does, where they give motivation to care about basically every spot within the playoffs. You don't just give up once you've clinched a playoff spot. In the NFL, you're playing for home field advantage or you're playing for a first-round bye or something like that. The KBO takes that to another level where you can earn up to 3 buys by finishing first in the regular season, and you just end up straight in the Korean series, which is what the NC Dinos did. So it starts with what's a 3-game wild card series here, except not really, because it's a 3-game series in which the 4 seed starts up a game. That's the way they found to give an advantage for finishing 4th rather than 5th. And it is indeed quite a big advantage. This series has only existed for 5 years, and the 4 seed has won all of them. In fact, the 5 seed has only won 1 single game in those 5 years. It was the Twins losing that game in 2006 to the Tigers. So maybe history will repeat itself here. We'll get into that soon. But the Twins need a win or even just a tie. A tie from the Twins will send them through to face the Bears in a best-of-3 series. This is normally a best-of-5, but it was slightly shortened this year due to the delayed start due to the pandemic. The winner of that will move on to face the 2 seed in a best-of-5, and the winner of that faces the Dinos for the title. So it's a really interesting ladder setup that I would say I'm definitely a big fan of.
Yeah, very interesting. We'll see how it plays out, how it factors in with the Dinos and Wiz getting weeks off here for the Dinos at least. So see if it's plentiful where they get a lot of rest and it's great, or maybe they get a little cold and then that lower seed heats up. So before we get too far ahead into the bracket, which we will get to our entire picks for that, we got to start with the 4-5 game happening tonight, tomorrow morning. Wild card round, Heroes, Twins. Let's first take a look at the Heroes. You break it down here on rotowire.com/free KBO for the full article. Heroes, they were runner-up last season, but they've been all over the board this year. We saw them win 14 of 18 and challenge the Dinos for that 1 seed, but then they also lost 9 of 12 at one point. and looked like they could be out of it entirely. They wind up with the 5 spot this year. What are we looking at from this Key Boom team?
Yeah, it's a pretty embarrassing collapse down the stretch, which was so bad that their manager just resigned in October. They were tied with the Dinos on September 13th, and they went 15-18 the rest of the way. But any momentum they might have had would probably be gone by this point anyway, because they played just 2 games in the last 2 weeks. Remember, these last 2 weeks were exclusively rain-out makeup games, and the Heroes play in a dome, so they only had 2 of those. So they're well rested, except, importantly, Eric Jokic is not well rested because he just pitched in the season finale on Friday. So the odds of him pitching in either of up to 2 games in this series would seem extremely low. I guess he could come back for a brief appearance in game 2 if there is a game 2 on short rest. But it's going to be Jake Brigham tonight, and then someone with an ERA around 5 if they can manage to win tonight. So being without Jokic, who was the league ERA leader by a pretty healthy margin, it's definitely a big blow for them in this series.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be difficult because that was their strength, at least coming into the year, 2 of the top pitchers in the KBO. And now they are a little cold coming into it now, into this must-win game. Offensively, though, it doesn't look much better. We saw early here, and you noted as well, Taylor Motter was going to be that foreign bat. He kind of flames out. You get Addison Russell in, but how did he do towards down the stretch? Was he really that World Series caliber player that he was here in the States for a short bit?
Yeah, it was really quite disappointing showing from him at 656 OPS, and it's not a tiny sample either. 65 games is longer than the entire MLB season this year. Really would have expected much more from anyone with former Major League experience, let alone a guy with more experience at that level than any other foreign hitter in the KBO. So definitely disappointing showing for him. He's even been benched frequently late in the year, hit 8th in their most recent game. So basically that's left the 2 young stars, Ha-Seong Kim and Jung-Hoo Lee. Kim, who is expected to head to Major League Baseball this offseason, and Lee, who I would be pretty surprised if he didn't in another 4 years or so, given how talented he is. It's left them with pretty little help. Their 3rd best hitter by OPS is Byung-Ho Park, former Minnesota Twin. He's at just 806 OPS, which is fine, but that's the 3rd best among their regulars. That would rank 6th on these Twins, and it would rank as low as 8th on the Dinos. So just the depth of truly star-level hitters, they just don't have it. It's a decent enough lineup, but just not close to what some of the other teams in the playoffs can provide in terms of hitters who you think, could take one out on any pitch, or who are surefire lock to hit at least 1, if not 2 hits. Just too many mediocre hitters behind those 2.
So not too confident in that depth of the lineup here. Turning our attention back to pitching, Jake Brigham is going tonight. He is coming off an unusual start, only went 34 pitches in that first inning, didn't pitch anymore. We're getting a question here about the better bullpen. If Brigham does come out of this game in maybe, say, the 4th inning, are you confident that the Heroes can at least stay in it somewhat with that pen, or would you give the edge to the Twins?
Yeah, that is definitely one of the strengths of the Heroes, at least the very back end of the bullpen. They have some more reliable arms than pretty much any other team in this postseason has. So if they can get it to the 8th inning close, maybe the 7th, if they stretch their top guys a couple innings, I think they'll feel good about their chances. That'd be their closer, Sang-Woo Jo, has a 2.15 ERA, striking out nearly 30% of opposing batters, saved 33 games. And then their setup man, Woo-Jin An, had an ERA of 3, a whip of just over 1, and struck out 32.5% of opposing batters. So 2 real shutdown arms there. KBO bullpens being shaky is one of the things that I think a lot of people learned from watching just even a couple KBO games this year. But that applies considerably less to the Heroes than most other teams out there. Most teams that made the playoffs have a reliable-ish arm or 2, but that pairing, I think, is a cut above anybody else in this postseason.
Yeah, those strikeout numbers are impressive, especially when it is in the hitter-friendly KBO. Moving now over to the LG Twins. They have Casey Kelly as we take a look at the lineups for both teams here. Kelly finished the year great October, ended strong, included a shutout of the Dinos. Are they still the team that, we looked at as maybe being that number 2 team in the power rankings, being one of the best well-rounded teams? Or maybe are they not that? Where are the Twins right now? Because they are in a 4 seed. They're not in the 2 seed where we thought they could be.
Right, though they're within, a game, maybe a game and a half of that 2 seed. It's pretty small differences throughout these postseason teams. But I do think overall depth is one of the strengths of the Twins. 6 of their regular hitters have an OPS over 800. All 5 of their main starting pitchers had ERAs below 450. Not that 450 is a great figure, but they don't have anybody that they'd be embarrassed to throw out there. So I think that lack of holes is definitely key. And Casey Kelly is another strength of this team. I think he has a case for the best pitcher of the second half. He was very mediocre in his first 14 starts this year, a 4.65 ERA. But in his last 14, he's got an ERA of 2.15 and a whip of 0.96. And that's not too far off, at least in the ERA category from what he did last year. He was at 2.55. So this level of dominance is not completely new for him by any means. I think there's reason to believe that he legitimately is a top 3, maybe top 5, potentially top 1 on a lot of days starter in the KBO, which when you only need to win 1 game to advance, I think they're going to be very happy to be leaning on him.
Yeah, definitely happy that he's healthy and ready to go. Can't really say the same for Tyler Wilson coming in. It's a quick note because they most likely will advance. We get to the pick, not giving anything away. But if they do advance, looking at that pitching rotation overall, what are we expecting from Wilson?
Yeah, Wilson struggled late in the year and then went down with an elbow issue. Often those two things are linked. He is throwing again, made some sort of rehab appearance over the weekend, I think yesterday. And he's not expected to pitch in this series, but there's a decent chance he could return as early as the second round. If it's the Tyler Wilson that we saw for stretches this year, that's quite good. He's never looked like quite the most dominant foreign starter in the league, but he's been completely adequate when he's on his game. Really wasn't that guy late in the year, but again, the elbow issues probably are to blame there. So if they feel confident bringing him back, it probably means that they think he's better than their other options. I think that'll be definitely a boost for them, although he doesn't necessarily line up with some of the number 2s on some of the teams they could be facing.
That's fair. Definitely not one of the better ones, but definitely solid. In terms of offense for the Twins, looking at the lineups here, Roberto Ramos, probably the biggest question offensively. They have other guys. Hyun-Soo Kim is mainly one of them, if not the other one. What are we expecting from Ramos, though? There was a note that he's ready to go, but do you think he is, and he's playoff Ramos now?
It's just so hard to say. He's played just a single game since October 1st. I think he was on the injury list, briefly came back, gave it a go, and was right back on the injury list after just 1 game due to ankle issues. He missed time with ankle issues earlier in the season, both ankle and back. And I can't say I'm super confident in a guy who's battled an issue throughout much of the year in his first game back. So I wouldn't necessarily buy into him as the Roberto Ramos we saw at his peak. Of course, that's certainly within the realm of possibility. And if the Twins go on a run, it's probably going to be in large part because Ramos is fully healthy and hitting a homer every other game or something like that. So I wouldn't just for tonight be ready to treat him as that guy, but it might only take about 2 games for him to look like he's truly back.
He's definitely dominated at times this season, so he will be a big addition if he is fully healthy for the LG Twins. Moving on to some picks. Oh, we had some lines, some other picks populate just now, actually. Before we get too crafty looking at everything available here, what do we think on the total? Do you think, Ramos can hit that home run that first game and that Brigham maybe shows some of those weaker points if he's not fully healthy after that last start? Or is this just Casey Kelly all the way shutting him down?
Yeah, 8's pretty low, but I think it's pretty fair reflection of how good these pitchers are. Brigham, again, he did come out after just 1 inning, but they said he's not injured, and he was pretty good in his 2 starts before that, just 1 total earned run in 13 innings on just 6 hits. So I think he can absolutely keep the Heroes in the game here. He was, again, the Heroes' opening day starter over Eric Jokic, so they feel pretty confident in him. But I can't pick against Casey Kelly. He's been too dominant in the second half, and I think the Twins lineup is deeper. Even without Ramos, I think it's a slightly better lineup because, again, there's just not enough top-level help for Ha-Seong Kim and Jung-Hoo Lee. And Ha-Seong Kim has been a bit shaky lately. I think he's gone hitless in 3 straight. So I think better lineup for the Twins, better pitcher for the Twins. I'm going to go their side, and I'm going to go under because these pitchers are really quite good. And if somehow the Heroes do pull off a win tonight, I think I'm still picking the Twins for the series because, again, same better lineup for the Twins, and with Eric Jokic probably unable to throw, I think the Twins will have a better starter in Game 2 as well.
Yeah, you definitely have to give the edge to the Heroes if their rotation was fully healthy and rested for that number 2 to go to Jokic versus even a healthy Tyler Wilson. But Jokic most likely not going in that game. You'd have to give the Twins the edge in this series. Looking at the first inning and some props, in terms of Casey Kelly, talking about the most dominant pitcher for the last month, 6.5 strikeouts is what we're going to set it at here. Do you think he gets more or less than 6.5 in this game?
Well, just taking a look at his last 8 starts, he's got 6.5. He's got 7 4 times, and he's got 6 or fewer 4 times. So that's a pretty fair line you've set here. I am going to go over. I think he's just been pitching really quite well lately. His last outing was a shaky one. I guess we should probably mention that. Did allow 4 runs in 6 innings against the Tigers, so not vintage form, but the way he's been for more or less the entirety of the second half, I think he's going to step up in a big game here.
And the second one for Brigham is with his injury history, with him only going 34 pitches last time out. We have it for 5 innings pitched. Does he go deeper than 5 innings, or do they pull him and go to that dominant bullpen in the 4th inning?
I don't think they pull him that early, especially since they need to win 2 games, and I think Brigham is their much more reliable pitcher compared to, again, whoever goes tomorrow. Yan-Hee Han, maybe. Won-Tae Choi, maybe. 2 guys who are decent at best. So I think they asked Brigham for 6-ish, then turn it over to some of those elite arms at the back of the pen. I think that's their best path to victory here.
The over then for that as well. In terms of who's going to strike first in that first inning, do you have any feel that maybe you could get a first inning home run from either team? Is there any sense there, just from watching these teams this entire season? Any inclination towards who's going to strike first?
I do think the Twins will strike first because I think, again, I've got more faith in Kelly than Brigham at the moment. I think it'll be something like 2-1-ish, maybe 3-1, 3-2 when these guys leave the game around inning 7. So I think it's going to be quite low, but I would give the edge to the Twins.
All right, that's what we're looking at. Twins scoring first with that lead very early on. Brigham going deep into this game. Hopefully he's all healthy and good to go. And Casey Kelly, another dominant outing with the Twins most likely winning. And it's the pick under 8. Finishing up now, taking a look back at the entire bracket here. We have the Twins. I'd also agree with the Twins advancing. I think that 1-0 series lead is huge, especially without Jokic for the Heroes in Game 2. Moving on to the next round, though, the best of 3 between most likely the Twins and the Bears, one of the most experienced teams in this bracket. Who do you like?
I'm going to have to go with the Bears. I think the Bears were a one-dimensional team for much of the year. They just could hit, and they couldn't pitch unless Raul Alcantara or Chris Flexen, when he was healthy, was on the mound. But they've sorted out the pitching. They charged all the way up to 3rd best in runs allowed per game, just 0.02 of a run behind the Heroes, I believe. Flexen's been incredibly dominant. In his last 4 starts, he's allowed a single run. He's got an ERA of 0.34, and Raul Alcantara has an ERA of 0.79 in his last 5. I think the Bears are going to ride those 2 to wins in basically all of their starts. And I believe, based on how the schedule plays out, if Casey Kelly goes tonight, that's Sunday, Game 1 of that next series, looks like it's going to be on Thursday. If Kelly's not able to go in one of the first games or 2, I may have that slightly wrong. But I think Kelly is the only one who can beat one of those two. But I would take Alcantara and Flexen in their 2 games, and in a best of 3, winning those 2 is going to be all it takes.
I'm going to have to agree with you there, Deuce and Bears. They are experienced, and they surprisingly had one of the best pitching snaps down the stretch. You got to go with Flexen if he can be anywhere close to what he's been for his last couple of starts. And, of course, Jose Miguel Fernandez looked like an MVP caliber player. I think one little break here will do him some good, and then hopefully recharge for this series. So we have the Bears then advancing to the semifinals against the KT Wiz. Best of 5 now. The Wiz, they were kind of the lovable losers in the beginning of this year, dropping a lot, but now looking like the team to be at that number 2 spot. How do we feel about the KT Wiz against the Bears?
Yeah, again, I just like those 2 foreign starters for the Bears. I think you can make a case that they're the best 2 starters in the league right now. I think if you just look at the last few starts, nobody can really compete with those 2. And the Wiz, the one thing they really lack, the biggest thing they lack is dominant aces at the top of the rotation. I think they're going to be pretty well outclassed in those 2 games. Their ERA leader among their starters is Hyun-Jun So at 3.86, and their 2 foreign starters, Odrisamer Despaigne and William Cuevas, have ERAs over 4. I just think that's too big of a gap. The Wiz do have Mel Rojas Jr., but the Bears lineup is comparable beyond him. And again, their top 2 starters, I think, are too good for what the Wiz can throw out there. So I'm going to pick, I guess it's technically an upset, although it's a little bit weird to call it an upset when it's the team that's made it to 5 straight Korean series versus the team that's in the playoffs for the first time in their history.
Yes, I'm going to go against the pick here. I think the Wiz, this is the KBO, this is offense, this is bat flips going way back. I'm going to go with the KT Wiz because they have not the Triple Crown winner, but a very good player, Mel Rojas Jr. RBIs and home runs locked that up. Unfortunately, did not win the Triple Crown, missed it by just like 5 points, I believe. I'm going to go with the Wiz. That pitching is very concerning. I don't know how they got the 2 seed with that Despaigne Cuevas 1-2 punch, but we know how. We talked about at the beginning of the show, the little luck with the Heroes losing. But I think we could see some high scoring games. Bears, Wiz. I think that could be very exciting, and I'm going to go with the Wiz. But moving on to the final, the Korean series, which I think we have some consensus on who is going to be the Korean series champion, either the Bears or Wiz against the Dinos. Where are you going?
Yeah, so I wrote in my playoff preview, which I just posted today, worth a read for anybody with a bit of time. I think, pick the Bears if this series was on equal footing. I think that, again, that core has been to 5 straight Korean series. I don't place a ton of stock in those sort of, wishy-washy mental factors that we can't ever predict from the outside, but they definitely exist. And if they exist at all, these guys have it. So if this were on equal footing, I think I would lean Bears. Again, those 2 elite starting pitchers, and the lineup's good enough. Nobody's lineup is the Dinos. They scored a half run per game more than anybody else. But the Bears are up there. But I can't ignore the history. The top seed has won 16 of the last 18 titles. Worth pointing out that those 2 where the top seed lost did come in the last 5 years, which might indicate things are changing, and we shouldn't put a ton of stock in that. But man, still 16 out of 18 is just hard to ignore. So I'm going to give it to the Dinos in 7, even though, again, I think this Bears team is really scary. It would not surprise me at all if they went on a run, won 3 straight series. If Changmo-ku is close to what he was early in the year, he was elite, by far the best starter in the league. Like strikeout rate 5 percentage points higher than anybody, ERA in the mid 1s until the very end. It climbed up into the high 1s. He came back from missing about half the year with forearm issues and actually jumped all the way up to, I think, 93 pitches in his most recent outing. So he's probably ready to start in a couple weeks when the Korean series starts. He didn't necessarily dominate in his last outing, but if they get, 95%, 90% of the Changmo-ku they got early in the year, which I think has a decent enough chance of happening, I think that's just enough to tilt things towards the Dinos.
I'd have to agree. I like the Dinos as well. Had the hat. Not going to wear it here just because it's game 1 wild card. I want to save that when we break down the Korean series. But yeah, I got to go with the Dinos. In my scenario, Wiz, Dinos have the edge in the pitching, so I believe in their strength as well. Rosinski, Mike Wright. Wright he's more on that Tyler Wilson level than Chris Flexen level. But I think they have enough. I think they show why they were, the best team for the entire year. And they win 7. I think we'll see 7. I think with everything going on, I think we'll get 7 games for the Korean series. But hey, you never know. It's KBO, and the KBO is wild. And that's all we got. Thank you guys for tuning in for this very special Halloween spooktacular KBO Chats live. Again, a wild card game is tonight. Where is it? Here we go. For all your stats and info, check out rotowire.com/free KBO. We have the lineups up with 2 very interesting pitchers going on tonight. Also, check back at RotoWire KBO on Twitter when we're going live again. We don't know if this series is going to be 1 games or 2. Most likely going to be 1 with the Twins. But we don't know. Brigham could go deep. We'll have to see. Check us out on Twitter for the next stream. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys. And fingers crossed for no rain tonight. But everything we said today still applies tomorrow if the game is delayed by a day.